Okay.
She ain't got it either, does she?
You're lying.
Well, what you're doing is you're manipulative.
Hey,
Team Sophie.
are you kidding me?
This has become incredibly toxic. Now, whether you're Team Sophie or Team Rob, whether you believe his version of events or hers, one thing we can all agree on is these two are just better off apart. It's time for the marriage to end.
She said this morning that she's gonna divorce you. She's done.
Jasmine delivers the news in literally the most brutal way, but it needs to be said. Someone needs to say it. Now, before we get to the lies, the arguments, the explosive accusations, let's rewind to the start. So we left the pair as they were yelling at each other in the hot tub over issues from 2 years ago, from before Sophie had even arrived in the States. Yeah, issues that she should have either forgiven Rob for or not married him. But yet, here we go again. She keeps bringing them up.
Why would you
would never be interested in this girl.
with a bitch online?
I wasn't trying to take her to dinner. I said maybe we could go to lunch.
Hey, I'm Brad.
I said we could go to lunch.
What are you talking about?
Now, Sophie claims that while she and Rob were engaged, while she was still in England, Rob sent another lady a voice note asking her out for dinner. A voice note she claims she has. But Rob disputes this. He claims it was never dinner, it was just lunch.
I said maybe we could go to lunch.
Now, here's the thing, right? It's no secret that these two are terrible at communicating. Like, even this argument is proof of that. Sophie's pulling faces and mocking Rob, while he seems to think that focusing on the fact it's lunch, not dinner, somehow disproves everything she's saying. He's acting like that's the incredibly important detail here, which it isn't. It really isn't. Like, whether it's breakfast, lunch, brunch, or dinner, that's not the fucking point, Rob.
I should have. Even though it was on a friend level,
It's
It's not like you were looking for bitches.
I was not looking for anybody.
This is like,
Oh no, not.
Rob's rattling away excuses, but ultimately the facts are he did reply to a DM. He was interested, he was open to getting lunch with another woman interested in him romantically, whilst engaged to Sophie. Like, you can understand why that has played on Sophie's mind. And Sophie reveals that this is why she questions whether or not Rob is even attracted to her. Like, she tells everyone he's happy to solicit sexual videos from other women on the internet, but he never asks me for those videos, she says, and that's affected my self-esteem.
Rob, why haven't you
girls
asked
he's
her for the
looking
sexual
at.
content? That's
And
my
he doesn't
question.
look-
I got some on my phone right now.
No. When he has asked
me.
Ashley asked Rob a direct question, and he's just beginning to respond, yet Sophie starts to talk all over him. She tells him to be quiet.
Robert, I'm saying my points, please.
Again, this isn't healthy. But the key point here is, according to Rob, what Sophie's saying is totally untrue. He says he did ask Sophie for content and he got it. So why is she twisting the facts? Why is she pretending otherwise? Well, Sophie's response to that is that she sent some stuff, her words, but that when he received it, Rob kept pushing for more and more. He wasn't happy with just photos of her butt. He wanted more graphic photos.
I want you to do more
For you?
because I want to see. Because I'm craving you, and I want to see everything I can get.
How can I get on camera if I'm not with you?
This right here perfectly captures everything that's wrong with Sophie and Rob. It's them to a T. They're upset and arguing with each other because they've completely misunderstood each other. Sophie's interpreted Rob's requests for more sexual videos as her not being enough, the ones she sent not being good enough for him. But Rob's saying it's because he can't get enough. He's so attracted to his wife that he wants more. But the problem is, those are two very different sentiments.
The reality is,
So,
Sophie
okay, so
inflates.
you guys
Sophie
only
inflates and then internalizes literally every thing that I do that she can find.
Yeah, Rob's nailed it. Sophie bottles up her feelings. She prefers to walk away rather than deal with things. And as a result, by not actually addressing things, they just get exaggerated in her head. The problems grow and grow the more that she stews on them, until she just explodes. And literally the best example of this is the fact that Sophie never properly processed how she felt 2 years ago when all of this actually happened. Like, everything she's talking about, everything she's now bringing up, whether it be the voice notes from other women or Rob's request for videos from other women, all happened years ago. But it's still clearly causing her pain because she didn't work through it at the time. She's been letting it fester all along.
Sophie refuses to forgive Rob. Those hoes are talking about that happened 2-3 years ago. They stay talking about it over and over and over and over again on repeat.
Now, as everyone gets out of the hot tub, Rob begins to vent to anyone who'll listen to him about how the worst thing he's ever done in this relationship is solicit nudes from other women. Now, while he acknowledges that that wasn't great, it wasn't his finest moment, he claims he acknowledged his mistake and he's been trying to make amends ever since. But, he says, Sophie has this annoying habit of always twisting the truth. She did it just now. She claimed I tried to take a woman out for dinner, he says. It just wasn't true. So when Sophie walks in, given that she claimed she had receipts, everyone wants her to produce them. Show us. Play the voice note you have so that we can determine the facts for ourselves, they ask her.
So you guys don't believe the voice note is what it is?
Well, we just want to see it. You keep talking about it.
You said you had it all night.
You know who will have it? I sent it to my mom. So she will have
Pull it up.
Now, Sophie quickly changes tune and says she doesn't actually have the voice note here right now. It's on my old phone, she tells everyone. But don't worry, she reassures them. I sent it to my mum, so she'll have them. So she proceeds to phone her mum up. She wakes her mum up at 5 in the morning. But the problem is, her mum doesn't have them anymore either. So you can see the problem here. She claimed to have receipts, but when asked for them, she couldn't produce. And that, for Rob, is the last straw.
Why would you not save it? Okay.
She ain't got it either, does she?
You're lying.
Well, what you're doing is you're manipulative.
Are you kidding me?
The fact that Sophie has made such a big issue of this voice note, the fact that she's used it as evidence to support all of her claims, means that when she can't pull it up, it makes her claims seem like they hold less weight. She's unable to prove what she's saying. Now, you can understand why that must be so frustrating for Sophie. She's annoyed that she thinks she's in the right, but she can't prove it. And that emotion bubbles over. She begins to cry. All the girls, they all comfort her. But as Rob sits sulking alone, it's a surprising figure who goes to console him.
Hermano, da un paso al costado, da gracias que no tienes hijos y continúa con tu vida. Y cuando encuentres la mujer ideal, seas feliz.
That's some very, very wise advice from Manuel. He's absolutely correct. The fact that there are no kids is the one positive in this whole gigantic mess. It means they can have a clean break. You're both young, you're both beautiful. Within a year, you can have forgotten about all of this. You can learn from these mistakes and not repeat them again in the future. And again, Manuel has nailed it. Now, unsurprisingly, after everything that's just gone down, Rob and Sophie choose to sleep in separate rooms. And when we join them again the next morning, Sophie's with the other female castmates on their way to filming in the studio.
Your situation is worse than I thought, Sophie. Like, the best thing that can happen to you guys is to get divorced. Yeah, I agree.
It's time.
Yeah, it's time. It's more than time. Sorry, but their relationship has been more bad times than good. They've spent more time apart than together. Like, at this point, they don't even have a relationship to fight for anymore. Just look at Rob lying on the couch while everyone's getting ready. That's a man who's exhausted. He's so sick and tired of this. Everything he does just backfires. It just pushes Sophie further and further away from him.
Grab a seat. Is it possible to have a different seat from Rob? Because I just don't want to sit next to him.
Okay, you want to get 2 chairs then?
Yeah, I don't want to sit next to him.
Oh, come on, Sophie, grow up. She's acting like a baby here, isn't she? If she's that uncomfortable, she can either scoot over to the end of the couch or sit on the other side of the studio. Having production change out the set when all that's happened is she's still literally sat next to him hasn't really achieved anything, has it? What difference does that make? Well, as the tell-all begins, Sean asks what happened that facilitated or necessitated that change. And Sophie's response is that she claims she caught Rob bad-mouthing her.
He was bad-mouthing me, which is very disrespectful because I'm his wife. It was just a very overwhelming night for me, so I just don't want to speak to him.
Sorry, are we watching the same show? Rob wasn't bad-mouthing Sophie. He was discussing, talking, communicating. He was sharing their problems with the rest of the group. That's the whole purpose of this show. That's what they're all encouraged to do. And Patrick jumps to Rob's defence. He tells Sophie Rob hasn't bad-mouthed you at all this entire time. But Rob doesn't need Patrick to advocate for him. He's not prepared to take this lying down. He tells her in no uncertain terms that she's wrong. But Sophie's response to that is to try and act like the victim.
This is why I have to raise my voice because you keep interrupting me.
I'm sorry.
Please stop.
I don't think this actually has to do with me. Sophie has gotten so used to being validated.
Look, I don't say this often, but Rob is correct again. Sophie surrounds herself with people like Kay or like her mum who always agree with her. Like, we've seen it on the tell-all too. She's constantly assessing who's on her side or who's on Rob's. And based on her assessment, that's who she hangs out with. Girls who tell her she's right, like Thais and Jasmine. But now that there are others who are telling her she's the one in the wrong, she takes it very, very badly. She can't handle that criticism. And in fact, while Gino and Jasmine are answering a completely unrelated question, the microphones pick up what Sophie says to Rob in private.
Looked you on everything. I never want to see you
Yeah, I know
again.
you did. I saw that.
Gino had his side and I had my side.
You're a very calculated and mean person. Yes, you are.
Rob and Sophie, what are you all saying?
Sophie's maturity, or more accurately, her lack of maturity, is really shining bright. Again, no communication, no attempts to actually talk about the problems. She's resorted back to running away. She's blocked her husband on everything. But what good is that gonna do? What's that gonna achieve? She still has to decide whether she wants to be with him or not. They still have shit to work out. One way or another, they need to communicate. Like, talk to the man, work out what you're gonna do, make up your mind, and if you're gonna leave him, then block him. Doing it now is just counterproductive. And the funny thing is, as Sean gets alerted to this private conversation that's going on, she abruptly stops Jasmine in the middle of her answer and turns the spotlight back to Rob and Sophie. She asks what's going on. And I think it's very clear that Jasmine doesn't like her screen time being taken away from her, because she abruptly exposes Sophie in quite a brutal way.
She said this morning that she's gonna divorce you. She's done.
Okay, I mean, we were there, and it wasn't exactly said like that. What was actually said was Jasmine said she thought Rob and Sophie have nowhere to go from here but to divorce, which is right. And Sophie agreed. She said they don't make each other happy. Like, what Jasmine just did was a little bit abrupt and uncalled for, frankly. I mean, don't get me wrong, if Sophie's not prepared to have that conversation herself, if she prefers to block Rob rather than actually communicate with him, then Jasmine breaking the news is actually better than that, but it wasn't really her place to do so. Like, it's not Jasmine's role to tell Rob that Sophie wants a divorce. Sophie should do that herself. But Jasmine then takes it one step further. She proceeds to diagnose exactly what the problem is with Rob and Sophie's marriage.
It's like a sympathy contest. Who is Team Sophie, who's Team Rob? They are focusing on all the wrong things.
I like how she worded that. It's a sympathy competition.
Yes.
Yeah, Jasmine's spot on, isn't she? I mean, I was on Team Sophie for quite a while. But the more we see into their relationship, the more obvious it becomes that she has no real interest in actually fixing the marriage. But, and let's just be clear here, if we're talking sides, I think most of us agree we're no longer on Team Rob or Team Sophie. We're all on Team Divorce.